I think you all probably know who I am. I'm Bob Mang, and I'm president of CSA. And here we are to meet our candidates for the upcoming election for a three-year term beginning in 2014. Last year we changed the format and made it a little more formal than it had been in the past. We have questions for the candidates, and you get a chance to hear them and see them, and maybe, like me, you'll get 30 calls from your neighbors saying, who are you going to vote for? But those of you who are here certainly get to see firsthand our candidates and hear what they have on their minds. There's some timing involved in this, so you won't be here until noon. There's another one, 4 o'clock this afternoon. I think Rob will be introducing that one. And with that, Charlie Ryan, head of our nominating committee, is going to take over. Last year he was fresh from the governor's debate in West Virginia, so he was really fired up. This year we'll see how good he does.
Morning. I think what we'll do is, call Congress in session and ask them to restart the government. Well, it's a great day in Sea Pines, and we have some extraordinary candidates for both the ASSPPO and CSA boards. Last July, we sent out the clarion call for board candidates who were willing to give of their time, talent, and experience to help enrich our plantation. Your nominating committee, consisting of Christine Beal, put your hand up, Bob Mang, whom you've already met, Rob Marsack, whom you know, Mike Hellman, Mike's here, right? Somewhere, okay. Chris Widnell, I don't think Chris is here. Oh, he's here, okay. And I was privileged to be the chairman of the committee. We received 11 applications. Last year, I think we had 6 applications, so we did well. 2 of the applicants withdrew, leaving us with 9 candidates. Needless to say, we were gratified that that many people came forth and wanted to serve this community. The nominating committee interviews consisted of questions asked the candidates and then questions asked by the candidates of the committee, and I think it was an excellent process, and we vetted really well. There are 3 positions up for election for both the ASSPPO and CSA boards. ASSPPO current board members who have decided not to run again are Christine Beal, Bob Mang, and Rob Marsack. Rob will remain as a member of the CSA board until his current term ends. CSA current board members who have decided not to run again are Angie Greenfield, Mike Hellman, and Bob Mang. Your nominating committee recommendations for the CSA board are Paul Crunkleton, Mark Griffith, Charlie Miner, William Snyder, and Michael Tucker. The nominating committee recommendations for the ASSPPO board are Mark Griffith, Charlie Miner, Everly Smith, William Snyder, and Michael Tucker. Nominated by petition are Sue Emke, George Paletta, and Buddy Thompson. And all of them are here: Paul, Sue, Mark, Charlie, Paul, Sue, Bill, Buddy, and Michael. Got it all right. I didn't get it right? Did I call you Sue, Everly? Yeah. Well, the names are in front. And the 9 candidates before you today have been asked to come to the podium 3 times to answer questions composed by the nominating committee. They're asked to use 1 minute only to answer the first question and 3 minutes to answer each of the following 2 questions. There's a reason for that. The meeting is being videotaped. It'll appear in its entirety on the CSA website, along with a 10-minute segment consisting of just the 1 minute response to the first question from each candidate. This is being done to give viewers the opportunity to view the full forum, which will be over an hour if they wish, or they can go to the 10-minute condensed version. So let's get started in alphabetical order. I'll ask each candidate to come forward as I call his or her name and answer the question I pose. The questions are on the screen behind me. I'm going to ask each candidate to rise from his or her chair as I begin their introduction and come to the podium, thereby saving us the time between questions asked and space traveled from their chairs to the distant podium. Let's begin with Paul Crunkleton. Paul. Paul is currently serving on the ASSPPO board and is running for the CSA board. He grew up in Philadelphia. He received a BS in chemistry from Philadelphia University. He's had a long career in sales and management and retired as director of global accounts for Eastman Chemical. Paul, the question is, if elected, what will be your mission as a board member? 1 minute to answer the question.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. It's a beautiful day in paradise, isn't it? If I'm elected, I see my mission as one of building trust and confidence between property owners and the CSA board. I'm, of course, a fellow property owner, and this is my full-time residence. I want to enhance the quality of our life by doing what is best for our resident property owners. I think all of us want to feel that our needs and concerns are being heard by somebody who cares enough to listen and have a dialogue to the point where action is taken for the good of all property owners. Therefore, I see my mission that I will accept this challenge, build confidence, and earn the confidence and trust of my fellow property owners. Thus, we can get things accomplished and enhance the quality of our life in Sea Pines. Thank you.
And done within the 1 minute. We didn't even have to give the 15-second warning, did we? Thanks, Paul. Sue Emke. Sue is a candidate for the ASSPPO board. She has a BS in ceramic engineering and worked for 10 years as a ceramic engineer. She also has a law degree and practiced law for 18 years, all the while raising a family and volunteering in the community. She served on the Sea Pines Country Club Board of Secretary, as a member of the Women's Club of Sea Pines, where she also served as secretary. She's been active in numerous community and volunteer services since moving here full-time in 2001. So, Sue, the question is, if elected, what will be your mission as a board member?
And good morning, everybody, and also thank you for coming. My name, as he said, is Sue Emke. My husband, Lane, and I have been full-time residents since 2001. We have 2 sons and 1 granddaughter. I am only running for the ASSPPO board. I believe that is because ASSPPO is the sole representative of the residential property owners, both full-time and part-time. It is time for the ASSPPO board members to use the authority granted by the covenants to steadfastly enforce the covenants and vigorously represent the residential property owners. If elected, my mission will be to provide effective representation of the interests of the residential property owners. This will involve communicating openly with them concerning all matters that affect them, providing a forum in which they can express their opinions, listening to those opinions, and acting in conformance with those opinions. Thank you.
Mark Griffith is running for both boards. He's a retired senior executive of a real estate private equity firm specializing in investment in commercial real estate and commercial real estate debt products across the U.S., the U.K., and Western Europe. He headed the company's entry into the U.K. and Western Europe and resided in the U.K. until his retirement in 2009. He's president of the Calabogie Cay Property Owners Association and is a director of Coastal States Bank. Mark, what will be your mission on the board?
Thank you, Charlie. And thank all of you for being here this morning. And also thanks to the nominating committee for agreeing to place me on the ballot this year. And thanks to all, and wish all my fellow candidates the best. My mission, I expect to execute the business of this community in a manner that will ensure that this community continues to be the premier plantation on Hilton Head Island. I believe I can apply the experience and knowledge of my background and will be able to consider sensibly all matters before the board and act in a fashion that is in the best interest of the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Charlie Miner is running for both boards. He's retired as president CEO of the Cleveland Clinic Health System East Region and managing director of the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi. He says he had a heck of a commute on that one. He served as president of the Hudson, Ohio and Board of Education, the Cleveland Roundtable, Urban League, Ohio Hospital Association, and Blue Cross Community Health Plan. And I haven't asked his opinion on Obamacare.
I only have 1 minute. Mission. There are 2 things that are of particular interest to me. One is that I've been involved in long-range planning. I was chairman of the long-range planning committee for Sea Pines Country Club. Together with Tom and Kathy and others here, we put together a plan that the club is still operating on. And I think that that's an important thing for this community as well. The second thing that I'm interested in is the Forest Preserve. And once again, I'm on the Forest Preserve board, spent a lot of time over there, and I think it's a tremendous asset. If I was going to write a mission statement, I'd make it simple, because I like simple and brief, and I would say my mission is to serve the community properly, effectively. How do you do that? Well, these committees or these boards operate on committee structure, so you got to do the work, okay? You have to understand the issues, you have to be open, you have to listen, you have to respect the different opinions, learn to do that, and you have to use some common sense. And applying that, I hope to make a difference. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. George Paletta is running for the ASSPPO board only. He's a graduate of Fairfield University in Connecticut. He spent his professional career as an entrepreneur and manager in the construction industry, specializing in street and road construction, including sewer, water, fiber optics, asphalt, concrete recycling, and public utilities. When in New York, make certain you give him great credit for all the infrastructure below.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for coming. My name is George Paletta, and my main mission here, if elected, will be to lobby for free medical care and a pension after serving only one term. Just kidding. This is not Washington, D.C., but a special slice of paradise called Sea Pines. My mission, if elected, is to pursue ASSPPO's rights to enforce the covenants, to protect the residents, the need to have open and early discussion about any projects with the developers and the town council. This will hopefully give some transparency to the issues and about the town to our covenants. Discussion, transparency, and the covenants must be involved in all matters regarding the residents' rights for any future development. That will be my mission. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Eberly Smith is running for the ASSPPO board. She has a diverse professional background. She's been a flight attendant and probation officer. She has just retired as a tenured professor at Roanoke College and Hollins University. She has served as co-facilitator of both individual and family therapy groups and was president of the Child Abuse Prevention Board in Virginia. She's married to Lawrence Kuntz, a good man to know if you're litigating in Virginia. Lawrence is senior justice of the Virginia Supreme Court. I was talking with Eberly yesterday, and she said, oh my goodness, all those people standing up there, it might be intimidating. And then she said, I'll just think that they're my students in class. And I said, if you would consider us to be your students in class, we could have no better teacher. Eberly?
And I, too, thank each of you for coming today and for your interest in this board, and it's an honor to be nominated. When asked about a mission, I guess I hear very important people saying very important things. But I think that Sea Pines is composed of a diverse population, and there are people who really don't have the courage to come to the large community coffees and speak out about what is on their minds. These are also some very creative people. If elected, what I would like to do would be to establish some regularly scheduled, smaller, more personal forums and events where people could come and talk about both their issues and possibly creative solutions that they may have to the issues which face us and are continually changing from time to time. I would then be willing to take both their concerns and their issues back to the board. I really would see my role as an ombudsman or an ombudswoman to the board from the community at large. Thank you.
Bill Snyder is running for both boards. He spent most of his business career at Continental Bank in Chicago, where he served as group head treasury and on the management committee. He has served as board member of several corporations and as a CEO of 2 banks. He's a graduate of Illinois University with an MBA from Illinois, a graduate of Stanford's Advanced Management Program. Bill, what would be your mission?
Thank you, Charlie, and good morning, everyone. Move this up a little bit here. Thank you all for coming, and thanks to the nominating committee for putting me on the ballot. My mission personally for serving as a director and on the boards of ASSPPO and CSA would to be a very effective director and apply my skills and experience in boards to really serve that board. Lisa and I have just started spending a lot of our time down here, and we're just moving our residency down here this fall. So I've watched the board, I've attended the meetings, and I think you as property owners really got involved about 2 years ago. You made your needs known, you held the board accountable, and I think the board's responded to that. So in some ways, a fair amount of the heavy lifting has been done on the boards, but I think that there's a lot of extra work to do here, and so I'm volunteering to be an unpaid volunteer and help carry that workload over the next 3 years, the election cycle. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Buddy Thompson is running for the ASSPPO board. He served as the planning director of Glenn County's Joint Planning Commission and community planner in the South Carolina Governor's Office, giving professional support to communities throughout the state in development of their comprehensive plans. Buddy came to the area as executive director of the Low Country Council of Governments, in charge of planning and development for 24 member communities. Buddy, what would be your mission on the board?
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning. My primary concern is one of openness and responsibility to the residential property owner. I will insist upon deliberations at every opportunity. That is the only way to operate on our unique master plan that Charles did. I will do my best to openly identify who is responsible for what. We should all know the authoritative responsibilities of all entities that operate and are charged with upholding our master plan and their covenants. I will strive to develop and implement a simplified and open planning and permitting process of decision making. These things are necessary to implement protection of our special land use plan. And I must say that ASSPPO is the responsible party. It is the very key that in the operation of CPIs. Thank you.
Thank you, Buddy. Michael Tucker is a candidate for both boards. He's a graduate of Indiana University, taught high school for a while, then had a long and successful career with Johnson & Johnson. He then formed his own executive search firm, recruiting C-level candidates for businesses. He has served on various national and regional nonprofit organizations and currently chairs the CSA Strategic Planning Task Force. In that capacity, he's probably met with most of you. He spent hundreds of hours on this important initiative for our plantation. I also know he used to be a heck of a baseball player. So, Michael, what would your mission be?
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, and once again, welcome to everyone, particularly in being here because you have an interest in this community. My mission will be to work with every party and every individual within the gates of Sea Pines who are interested in returning this wonderful, wonderful community back to the world-class status it once held. Over the years, some of that has been tarnished. We have everything a paradise needs. We've got the beauty of the beach, we got the beauty of the forest preserve, we've got the man-made biking trails, hiking trails, we've got wonderful people, but we've also got a lot of internal misunderstandings. Those misunderstandings are standing in the way of this community reaching its full potential. There are too many successful people here to be divided. No house divided will stand alone. 15. Don't get me wrong, diversity is important. My mission is not to focus on the property owner, the resort, or the commercial interest, but to operate on the big picture of Sea Pines as a whole, because those individual pieces make up the big puzzle. Thank you very much.
There you have the candidates, and we're going to get into the 3-minute responses now. I just wanted to say our committee was really impressed with what a wonderful pool of talent we have to draw from here in Sea Pines. There are people here from all over the world, and they bring such great talent. And they want to contribute, and they want to get to know their community more and more. And while there are different views at various junctures, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful mix that we have. And out of that, I think, have come great things and will come great things. So we were so impressed with the candidates that came forth. The second question is What qualities do you bring to the board if elected, both personally and professionally? And we're going to have 3 minutes for this. And when the 2.5 minutes are up and Christine signals me, I will say 30 seconds. So we'll keep the same order. And Paul, if you would, tell us what qualities do you bring to the board if elected, both personally and professionally?
Thank you, Charlie. All of us seeking to represent you on the board, I believe, have the professional and personal qualities that you need to make me a worthy candidate. However, as I focus on my qualities and how I think they would allow me to represent my fellow property owners, I think of the following qualities. 1, commitment and dedication. Sea Pines is my home. I want what is best for our community. To accomplish that, you need to be involved and not just live here. And to be involved, that means a dedication and commitment of time and energy. I do that now, I believe, in representing my property regime on our board, as being a part of the ASSPPO board, being a member of the CSA Landscape and Management Committee, and also having served on a task force that modified, refined the ideas and actions that came from Roadmap 2020 to actually come up with a list of things that the property owners actually wanted to have done. To meet the demands of being on both boards, you need to have the qualities of commitment and dedication. Second quality, I think, is compassion. It's important that you be involved with your neighbors in your community and in the town you live. For that reason, I've been involved for years with Meals on Wheels, Hilton Head Heroes, and Second Helping. I believe these qualities will help you be a successful and compassionate board member. Also, number 3, I feel being responsible in financial management is a quality that's needed in both professional and personal areas. I believe I got this quality from my father, who expected everyone to be fiscally responsible, especially if they were managing and looking after other people's monies. So as a board member, I would use this quality in any decisions making involving your money. In my professional career, I had the opportunity to develop the qualities of consensus building and negotiating skills. Now, these helped me greatly in my managing my business career, and it was also quite useful in when I was involved as president of a sales and management association, and also later as the treasurer of another chemical association. These will be needed in working on the CSA board. However, none of these skills will be useful if you don't have the quality of trust. You'll need those in negotiating and also getting consensus of a diverse group. Trust is a must. Without that quality, nothing of value will be accomplished. And then finally, my business career gave me the opportunity to hone the qualities of, the qualities of problem solving and decision making. As a board member, you are clearly going to be involved in problems to be solved and decisions to be made that will affect the quality of life of Sea Pines. So you need property owners that possess these qualities so they can manage their ways through them for the betterment of the property owners and the community as a whole. Using these qualities, I feel I'll be an effective representative of my fellow property owners. Thank you.
The only thing Paul left out is he's the guy responsible for wearing out the machines over at the workout center at the country club. He works out like a demon if you've ever seen him over there. Sue, what qualities do you bring to the board if elected, both personally and professionally?
Thank you. I think the greatest asset I will bring to the ASSPPO board is my work experience in both engineering and law. These professions require logical thinking and problem solving through research of the matter at hand. I have managed a research lab as a ceramic engineer, and I have engaged in legal research and writing as an attorney. Coupled with raising my family, I am well prepared to serve the residential property owners. I have also worked on committees and boards. This has required me to follow an agenda and work within a group to attain a desired goal. My commitment to the interests of the residential property owners is another quality that I will bring to the ASSPPO board. 2 years ago, as part of a group, I committed to communicating with information learned about what happens in this community to all other residential property owners. I helped found an organization called SPPO, the Sea Pines United Residents. We welcome any and all email addresses. Over the last 2 years, I have personally attended over 90% of community coffees, ASSPPO, and board meetings. And then SPPO has reported on those meetings to those that are on our list. Many residential property owners have contacted SPPO asking for help with specific issues that affect their quality of life in the plantation. And we have referred them to the person best able to help them, or we have helped them themselves. We have been contacted by residential property owners concerning many, many issues. As a result of attendance at all of the meetings and inquiries from residential property owners, I have read many of the covenants, along with town ordinances and state statutes. This knowledge is another quality I will bring to the ASSPPO board. Finally, I would bring to the ASSPPO board my social interaction in the community. I'm a member of the Women's Club of Sea Pines and have served on its board. I am active in many of the interest groups within the Women's Club. I've been a member of the Sea Pines Country Club since 2001 and have served on many committees, including the Long Range Plan Committee and the Gulf Committee. I have also served as secretary for 5 years.
30.
And I thank you for your interest.
Thanks, Sue. Mark, the qualities you'll bring to the board if elected, personally and professionally.
Thanks, Charlie. I've been a property owner in Sea Pines since 2006 and a full-time resident since 2009. My wife and I reside on North Calabogie Cay, where I serve as president of the Calabogie Cay Property Owners Association, as well as the Calabogie Cay Creekside Dredge Association. As Charlie mentioned, I'm lead director of the board at Coastal States Bank, where I also serve as chairman of the audit committee and the independent committees. I've also served on a number of committees for the Art Center of Coastal Carolina and the Governor's School of South Carolina. I retired after just over 30 years in the real estate management, marketing, development, finance, and investment business. I have built, leased, managed, and invested in over $50 billion worth of real estate property in both the US and UK and Western Europe over my career. I was president of the Eastern region of the US for L&R Property Corporation, where I personally managed a group of assets in excess of $500 million with a team of 80 professionals. Following that, as Charlie mentioned, I led our company's entry into the UK and Western Europe. I built a division that serviced and managed over $50 billion in property and property-related debt assets, created with a team of over 150 internationals. I was born and raised in Delaware, Ohio. I attended Ohio University, studied journalism, and was a letterman on the Ohio University swim team. I am trustworthy, I am confident, I'm a problem solver, a team player, diligent, and will serve this community and its residents with pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Charlie Miner's next. I guess in terms of full disclosure, my mother's maiden name was Miner, spelled the same way, M-I-N-E-R, but as far as I can tell, we're no relation. So Charlie, what qualities do you bring to the board if elected, personally and professionally?
Thanks, Charlie. I'm going to do the professional part first. I've been around the block a few times on board service. I have been blessed with a varied career and started off in construction. I was general manager of the Lorne Company, a mechanical contractor in Detroit. I came back to Cleveland, Ohio as president of Automatic Sprinkler Corporation of America, which is a fire protection company worldwide. That grew successfully. I moved up in what was a conglomerate then, Figge International, and ran a variety of companies worldwide. Snorkel economy, the snorkel aerial lifts, conveyor belts, properties, a variety of different things, insurance. And as a result, I got a wide experience of dealing with a wide variety of people, a wide variety of issues, and trying to be a problem solver. My board connections, I was serving on a hospital board. I ended up as president of Hillcrest Hospital. That matured into the Meridia Health System, and then ultimately we merged with the Cleveland Clinic when I became the president and chief executive officer of the Cleveland Clinic's community hospital system in the East. I've served on a variety of boards, the Cleveland Business Roundtable, which was organized to interact business with the inner city, the Urban League, which dealt with poverty and issues of employment, Ohio Hospital Association, various insurance boards. And so from a standpoint of board experience, I think I understand what it takes to be a good board member. From a personal standpoint, Meg and I bought our house here on Oyster Landing Road in 2001. We are now permanent residents and have been for some time. I don't really remember exactly how long. I was trained as an engineer. I went to school as a chemical engineer. I obtained my professional engineering license. And so that gives me kind of the background of thinking about things logically. I like to know what makes things tick, how they work. I believe I'm practical. I believe I'm objective. I believe I'm fair-minded. I think those are important, open qualifications for this board. I also believe strongly in communication. I've dealt with organizations of thousands of people, and you have to communicate well with that. I take my work seriously. I'm on the Art League of Hilton Head board. I'm on the Club Course Property Owners board. I take my work seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. I think you have to have a positive attitude. I think you have to have a sense of humor. And I think you have to enjoy this beautiful life that we have here by solving the problems and working proactively and positively towards the great community that this can be. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. George, what was that ruler that you brought to the meeting? What do you call those? The extension or?
Yeah.
What's the name for the ruler?
I just brought an extending ruler.
Yeah, extending ruler, the kinds that go out like this. So he was on the job immediately as soon as he came to the interview session, because he came in with a ruler and he sat down, and then he told us that there were some things in the building that just weren't plumb, and wanted us to know about that. So it was revealing that that was the case. George, what qualities do you bring to the Board if elected, both personally and professionally?
Thank you, Charlie, but the fact was the scale on the drawing was totally incorrect. It showed 1 inch equals 40 feet or whatever it was, and there was nowhere near that. Anyway, thank you for being here again. And what do I bring to the board? Well, I was born and raised in New York City, so that immediately makes me very different than most of the other fellas here, okay? And I spent my entire career in the private sector of the heavy construction industry, which is another first from what I'm hearing about the competition here for these for this ASSPPO board, which is the only one I'm running for. Okay, so the heavy construction industry specialized in street and road construction, which included work with the different departments of sewer, water, fiber optics in New York, and also utility work with the rest of the Con Edisons, which is the Palmettos down here, et cetera. I developed a very hands-on approach, since it was a large family-owned business, which ranked between number 1 and number 3 at any different given time in the street and road construction in New York City. The last project that we finished was 6th Avenue in Manhattan. If any of you have been to Rockefeller Center, it went right past that. It started from 4th Street and went to 56th Street. I look at the people doing work down here, and I wonder, God help us. So the hands-on approach was really brought into my life very early. Had to go through all the applications in the business, starting from laboring all the way on up. And that happened in a rapid succession. So I developed a hands-on approach to all matters, from the bidding process to managing the job, overseeing a large unionized workforce, which gives you more difficulties and has to be a fairly good negotiator. This honed some very valuable communicating skills, sometimes including a 24-hour rule. And that 24-hour rule is something I don't know if they do down here or know of, but sometimes you have to take 24 hours before you make a decision, because in the heat of the moment, you may not say what you really want to say. So I have that ability, not all the time, but I have that ability. Okay, oversight and supervision, as well as the coordinating of operations, is vital to a successful job. And that was taught to me from the beginning because I started at the bottom. I see a lot of people here have some very successful careers, but they're in different areas. So I am kind of unique, I feel, in bringing my abilities. Okay, the ability to communicate with the workforce, the city, or the state, and the specifications and applications of the job have brought huge benefits in having discussions with the town and the developers and what the covenants permit us to do or not. Being a person with a futuristic look, I started the first concrete recycling business in New York City. We was also the first company to use milling when we repaved in the streets, and therefore I have a futuristic view. We became a very, very aggressive company in New York. So my dear people here, the private sector is very different in the development, and I want to bring my skills and my abilities to serve you on the ASSPPO board. So I thank you for listening to me, and I want to bring a strong voice to ASSPPO to protect the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Eberly Smith is next. Again, in the interest of full disclosure, I was a neighbor of Eberly's on Stony Creek when we first moved down here, and I was thrilled when she decided that she wanted to run for the board. So, Eberly, what qualities do you bring to the board if elected, both personally and professionally?
Well, I don't bring all of the high-powered business experience that many people bring, but I have taught freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in college, and that brings its own challenges. Those of you who are parents certainly know that. Professionally, my background is quite diverse. As Charlie pointed out, most of the things that I have done in my life have been primarily working with people. This began first as a flight attendant, and if you have never worked with the public on a large-scale basis, you just cannot imagine. Secondly, was as a probation officer, and that brought its own set of issues. Based on those two jobs, I think I developed some strong, active listening skills and critical thinking skills. So I began my trek back to graduate school. After completing graduate degrees at Virginia Commonwealth University and Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, I began teaching, first at Roanoke College and then at Hollins University. Teaching also consists of serving on academic committees. And for those of you who have never had to serve on academic committees, they fight bitterly because there is so little to fight over. And probably one of the worst ones was Faculty Grievance Committee, which I chaired for years and gained tremendous communication skills in dealing with this. I've also worked part-time, both as a family therapist and as a group therapist. And consider probably my greatest strength to be to listen, to clarify, and to reflect back what people are saying. You talk about conflict resolution. I have been married for 35 years and have had to deal with members of the bench from the district court level all the way to the Supreme Court level. I consider conflict resolution one of my skills. My husband and I have owned property here in Sea Pines since 1993. We have been all of the above, a investment family who had to rent their place to keep it, a part-timer, and I am now, since I retired from college teaching, a full-timer who hopes to devote a great deal of time to this community that I have loved for 20 years. What about me personally? I've always been involved in community boards where I have lived. I have served as board president of the Child Abuse Prevention Council. I have done national board work for PPFA, traveling throughout the United States to deal with boards that were having conflict problems. And I would hope to bring both these listening skills, communication skills, and compassion to a community that's just terrific. Thank you.
Bill Snyder. Bill, I said you spent most of your career in Chicago. You also have some background in Colorado, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, could you come to the podium and tell us what skills you'll bring to the board, and what's the background in Colorado. We won't time you until you tell us the background in Colorado.
Colorado, huh? Okay. Yeah, let's start with the professional part. When I got out of graduate school, I joined Continental Bank in Chicago, which I think some of you are from Chicago here, the largest bank in Chicago. And in those days, it had $55 billion in assets, which was, in those days, a lot of money. And I spent most of my career there, and also all of that is in the private sector. Started off as a trainee, and so I've served at the bottom level of organizations, mid-level, and then also at the executive level. And I ended up on the management committee of that bank and as group head treasury. So it's a large international bank. We had 63 countries we had offices in. It had 93 offices overseas. And I also, along the way, spent 5 years in the international department traveling overseas and doing business with foreign governments and then foreign corporations. So I think my experience in Fortune's 500 companies has been extensive. After I left there, I served in some middle-sized companies and then small companies, all in the private sector. So I think I've got experience in all sizes of companies. And I might add, too, that almost all of my experience was in line executive decisions, not staff decisions. You know, executives that have to make decisions have to get people and other resources to work together, and then being held accountable by shareholders, investors, and then also by customers. So, also, I've served on corporate boards for community boards. I've always been involved in my communities. I've served on 3 significant homeowners boards, and then 1 national board with the federal government. During the Clinton administration, the Department of Interior had lost over $2 billion of funds that belonged to Native Americans in the United States, and the federal government was managing $3.5 billion of Native American funds. So the Clinton administration appointed a board to fix that and get it organized, and I was one of the financial experts on that board and served on it for 10 years. So just on the professional, I was lucky enough to have a very good manager early in my career, and when you're sitting in committee meetings and there's a clash of priorities and a clash of cultures and international and egos get involved, he would come to me and say, "Bill, focus on solving the problem," and I think that has served me well in the future. Personally, I think I can work effectively with groups in leadership and other positions. And as I said earlier, Lisa and I love this community, and we want to help it prosper and get back to its position as probably the best place to live in the United States. So we're committed to the time and effort to make this board and community work. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Buddy Thompson's next. Buddy, you may be the only candidate that personally knew Charles Fraser. Is that correct?
Yep, I guess. I don't know.
Probably so. Tell us what qualities you bring to the board.
My qualities is this. This is Sea Pines Plantation's master plan. This is what I've done all my life. And basically, hadn't done it the way Fraser did it. I grew up on St. Simon's Island, which is just south of here, as you well know. And I went through school, University of Georgia, and I ended up in the area of planning. At that time, most of the planning schools were Georgia Tech, MIT, that sort of thing. And I ended up actually director of the Brunswick-Glenn County Joint Planning Commission, helping put together their plan and implementing ordinances. But I didn't know right up the water here that Charles Fraser was doing the most unique planning that could be done at the time, and still remains that way. I left Brunswick, went to the State Development Board, Governor's Office. I provided professional planning services to towns throughout the communities throughout the state, probably 30. I did master plans like development plans, City of Beaufort, example. They're still using it. The implementing ordinances are the basis of everything they use today. Whether it's there or Ridgeland or Walterboro or all that, it was Marion, that's what I did. But I came to the Low Country. I was invited to be the executive director of the Low Country Council of Governments, which was a multi-unit of government that actually servicing the 23 towns and communities in this area. And we provided a number of services from environmental studies like your 208 water quality runoff that we did studies here in Sea Pines. But I also spent a lot of time in the area of historic preservation, which I'm extremely interested. I love art. I'm a graphic designer in a lot of cases, and so I eventually retired to paint. And my wife and I ended up off island across the Broad doing renovating an 1875 house. And we lived in it and renovated it. If you ever fall in love with the place, you'll do it that way if you've touched every bit of it. And so that's what I did. And my interest is one thing, is what Charles did. Charles had a sensitive way of developing. He left with us covenants that is based to implement this plan. The legal representative for that implementation is ASSPPO. That's unquestionable. In the covenants, you'll read them. I hope that will bring forth that kind of expertise for you to understand and me to understand what goes on in this community and how things are supposed to be implemented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy. My computation is that any board member of ASSPPO or CSA spends at least 150 hours working annually in the effort. When you take into account the work that the presidents do, Bob Mang and Rob Marsack each have spent, by my computation, well over 1,000 hours annually in this work. And the guy behind me, Michael Tucker, has probably spent 1,000 hours in doing the work that he has done on the Strategic Planning Committee. Michael, what qualities do you plan to bring to the board if elected?
Thank you, Charlie. I went a little different way than my colleagues here. My bio that will be published lists all the activities involved. What I wanted to talk about were the personal and professional areas that do not change, and those are the qualities of the person. The qualities I bring: first, I am a collaborator. Throughout my personal and professional career, I've rarely seen any time that when the lines are drawn in the sand, you get a positive outcome. Those lines rarely work. Life is too easy, life is too enjoyable, and it gets better when we realize that because someone differs from you, it doesn't make them wrong, it only makes them different. When I was asked to chair this task force, all I heard about was SPPO. I knew nothing about it. The very first person I met with was Sue Emke to tell me about the SPPO organization so I could better understand what their issues were as it relates to the community. My ability to accept opinions other than my own allows me to listen very, very carefully to others in order to find paths of agreements that we can all accept. Today we have differences within Sea Pines. Today we have differences amongst individuals as well as differences amongst groups. Tomorrow, we need to find commonality amongst those differences and focus on, once again, the bigger picture of Sea Pines Plantation. Secondly, I'm a communicator. I believe quality communication can only occur when thoughtful words are exchanged on a two-way street. As a person who made his livelihood in sales, like many other people here, I quickly learned that until I know your position and your stance, my words will be wasted. For the past 6 months, as Charlie referred to, I've been fortunate to chair the CSA Task Force on Strategic Planning. Personally, I have communicated with well over 100 people and taken over 500 suggestions on what CSA should look like in the future. The task force has listened. I have listened. As a candidate and as a representative, I will continue to listen going forward. And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, I bring leadership, like many of the individuals up here today. From captaining many athletic high school teams to being fraternity president, 15 years of executive management with J&J, divisional president of a $200 million company, board chairman of the National Children's Cancer Society, board chairman of the Collin County Children's Advocacy Center, currently board member of Hope Haven of the Low Country, collaborator, communicator, leader. I've held nonprofit workshops on board development for over 20 years. These qualities, coupled with my experience on the Strategic Task Force, will make me a good candidate for you. Thank you.
Hi, Michael. So 2 rounds over, and now the final round. What we're going to do in this one is, again, they'll have 3 minutes to answer the question. We'll give a 30-second, and we would ask the candidates simply to come forward one after another. In other words, when Paul is at 30 seconds, Sue, you come up and stand behind him. When he leaves, you move in. Mark does the same thing, et cetera, and we'll try to keep the traffic straight. So the third question is, what are the 3 most pressing issues in Sea Pines Plantation? 3 minutes.
Thank you, Charlie. Again, thanks for coming. Our community in Sea Pines is really in good shape. Under the direction of our treasurer and the finance committee, we can feel that our finances are in really good hands. With that being said, there are always issues that need to be understood, addressed, and managed. I can think of 3 areas of concern that I would like to tackle as board member on the CSA. One is to continue to build the confidence and trust between the board and the resident property owners. That's needed to make our plantation work and run efficiently. Now, the way we can do this is to continue to show transparency between, or transparency with committees and the board itself, continued clear and concise communications on a timely basis, timely town hall meetings, and frequent e-blast to property owners. I think we are managing this issue nicely, but we need to be continually focused to make sure that confidence and trust is always a positive. Second issue I see is maintaining, enhancing the quality of life in Sea Pines. Now that means our infrastructure, maintaining it and improving it where we can demonstrate that improvements will actually add value to our quality of life. That also means managing the relationships between property owners and the commercial entities. We both have a common interest in doing what is best for Sea Pines. Understanding each other's needs and wants will allow us to enhance the quality of life in Sea Pines. This also means managing the rights of those who rent their property with the rights of those of us who have chosen to live here full time. Now this can be at times difficult, but this needs to be done to make sure Sea Pines' quality of life continues to grow. This also means the monitoring of land use within Sea Pines so that our properties are maintained consistent with Sea Pines standards. If we allow these standards to slide, then we can be confident that our quality of life will slide. And the third issue I would like to address as a board member is to develop and implement a strategic plan and a timeline for that plan. Now, you've already heard Michael's already leading a task force for a strategic plan, and I'm confident that'll be presented in the very near future. Now, once the board gets this, we need to make sure, thank you, Charlie. Once we get this, the board needs to make sure it's vital that this information be given to all property owners in a timely and complete basis so that we will know what's in it and have a full buy-in. Then we'll have a timeline and a cost associated with that timeline that will be understood by all. Now, these are important issues that can be managed by board members who have a clear understanding of what is needed. And if elected, I will be such a board member. Again, thanks for coming.
Again, thank you. I consider a major issue to be addressed by this community is that of communication and transparency. It's 2 sides of the same issue. I applaud the actions of the boards in opening their monthly meetings to the residents, but they have done nothing to advertise them. If you come into this plantation a week before a community coffee meeting, there's a board out there. Consequently, community coffees have been growing and input from residents has increased. But input or attendance at board meetings has not. It's been hard to find when a board meeting is sometimes. What I do condemn, though, is the failure of the boards to completely provide an open forum. They still have executive committee meetings that do not discuss just legal efforts or personnel matters. And considering the residents provide over 90% of the operating budget of CSA, they should be more communication to them. Another pressing issue in Sea Pines is that of identity. Are we a residential gated community with a resort in it, or a resort with a residential property owners and smaller commercial operations? This is especially vexing because there are 6,000 residential property owners, and they represent an investment of over $5.5 billion in this community. Yearly, the residential property owners make improvements to their properties of over $30 million. There are a number of commercial entities besides the Sea Pines Resort. Their total investment in Sea Pines is approximately $145 million. All that we ask is an equal operation in the future of this plantation. And this can be achieved by the ASSPPO board enforcing the rights that it has been granted under the covenants. The need for the ASSPPO board to exercise the authority provided by the covenants is also a pressing issue within the plantation. ASSPPO and the Property Owners Advisory Board were created to protect the interest of the residential property owners. The 1974 covenants state that the master plan, which Buddy has provided, and this map controls the application of the covenants. ASSPPO controls the master plan, and the 1974 covenants provide that the company, now the resort, will meet with ASSPPO, not less than monthly, and that ASSPPO will advise the company on matters relating to community services. ASSPPO only has the legal standing to seek enforcement of the covenants as the representative of the residential property owners. It is imperative that your rights be protected by the ASSPPO board, and I intend to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe the most important issue confronting our community, as I mentioned in my mission, is to ensure that we maintain our position. We maintain our position on Hilton Head Island, and we maintain our world-class image across our country and across our Europe, or across our country and across the world that we have enjoyed over the last 50+ years. To maintain this position and thereby enhancing the value of our individual properties, there's a number of issues that we must consider. Investing in our infrastructure, I think it's been mentioned before. Our assets continue to age, and over time, those aged assets are going to affect our enjoyment and, again, the value of our individual assets within our community. I was reading the newsletter from the Sea Pines Country Club yesterday, and I had written this the day before, and the president of the club mentioned status quo is the kind of call to order of the Sea Pines Country Club, and that said the status quo doesn't work. And I had written here, and I truly believe this, that status quo doesn't work. We will continue to see our assets decline, and therefore our individual property values will decline. Secondly, we've been extremely fortunate that we've not been devastated by one of these incredible hurricanes over the recent, I don't know, how long is it? 25+ years. Mother Nature's unreliable. We just can't assume that it's not going to happen to us. I'm very concerned that this will happen in the future. I don't believe we have sufficient reserve funding to quickly clean up our common areas, get our community back into service. And that would be a priority for me. I think we also need to establish better control of our gates. Not that anyone or any can come in, I just don't think there's enough control. At peak of season and holidays, if we had better control, maybe we should be charging more. We could have we could reduce the impact on our roadways and on our bike paths. And lastly, and it's also been mentioned, enforce our covenants, enforce it on all property owners across the community. We need to make sure that we maintain high standards and that we enforce those standards against all properties in the community. Thank you.
Three things. Meg and I came down to Hilton Head the first time in 1967, more than 45 years ago. Unfortunately, most of the infrastructure that was there then is still here. And like all of us, I would like to be 45 years younger, but I'm not. And that is an issue that has already been addressed, but is clearly part of what we need to do. The lifestyle that we enjoy here in this community is largely dictated by the infrastructure that we have, and it needs constant repair and replacement, just as we do on occasion. So that would be one area. Second area of issue is that we are in a period of change. We can't avoid that. It is inevitable. And that is part of the issue of communication, that as the issues here in the community change, how do we communicate those? How do we protect our rights as property owners? And how do we see to the changes that are going to happen in Sea Pines over the next 10 to 15 years? Over half of our property owners are non-resident. Likely that will change. As more baby boomers retire, hopefully they'll be moving here. But at the same time, we have an aging population, so they'll be turning over as well. So those changes affect the resort, they affect our community, they affect our covenants, they affect everything about us. So that's sort of another huge sea change. Lastly, I would say that the elephant in the room for me and for many other people is the threat of severe storm damage. We live in an area where I think the mean high point in the island is 14 feet above mean high tide. When you see storm surges of 20 feet in other areas. When I read the little poster about the last great hurricane that hit in the 1800s, hit directly on here, and the loss of life and property, I shudder to think, with the increased severity of storms, with climate change, what is the future for Hilton Head? We have so much invested here. We need to make sure that we have the ability to react and to assist homeowners who are affected by it once that happens. So I hope to, as part of my role here, is to find a way to address that huge elephant in the room through the adequate funding of recovery, information, and communication. Thank you.
Reality, I've been a 32-year Sea Pines Plantation homeowner and now permanent resident for the last 4 years. I've observed changes in the administration of the plantation have resulted in a progressive loss of direction of the ASSPPO regime with regard to protection of property owners' rights versus commercial interests. This erosion of property owners' rights is detrimental. I would like to lend my experience with contracts, construction, and management to ensure a positive future for Sea Pines residents. Property owners must be informed and have the chance to be proactive in determining the direction of new construction projects and proposals by the resort and other commercial entities. As the largest investors and sole source of revenue for CSA, Sea Pines residents must protect their rights. These rights must be considered before decisions are made and groundbreaking ceremonies. On a very important issue is the education of all our residents who pay money to understand what the present powers of ASSPPO are with regards to the covenants and protection of the residents. Being educated to understand that ASSPPO has the right and the duty to be involved in all issues regarding development, town council input, and the covenants of Sea Pines. The erosion of ASSPPO's powers is due to the perception that it has no power, and that is totally incorrect. That is totally incorrect. We need strong voices to combat this and again regain the position as the protector of the residents' rights through the covenants. Remember, the Residents Fund is 90% of the money used to maintain Sea Pines Plantation. Transparency is a very favorite word of politicians, but one that never seems to evolve. We are not politicians, but serve at the will of the residents, you people. Therefore, we have no reason to hold back any information on issues and must be proactive with the town council and our area representative. Any information about future plans by commercial entities or the resort within the plantation must be given to us immediately. We have not been able to get this input and are always fighting an issue that already has traction and lobbying. In order to maintain this paradise of Sea Pines, we must be involved in the issues, use the enforcement procedures permitted by the covenants, and to educate our residents on what their abilities are in these areas. We all want to maintain our plantation the way it was designed, for peace, tranquility, and environmental balance. Thank you.
We all chose to buy here. We all chose to live here, and we're choosing to stay here. And we will deal with issues periodically. I stop and think, when I first started coming to the community coffees, dredging was a huge issue. It's resolved now, fortunately, thanks to the hard work of many people. The Newhall Audubon Preserve, if you came to the coffee yesterday, it's another issue that's being dealt with. Issues come and issues go, and they are resolved in a variety of different ways. I think for the property owners, and remember, I'm only running for ASSPPO, I think for the property owners, many times it's not only the global issues that both the CSA and ASSPPO boards deal with, it's the smaller issues that can get under our skin, that can cause us problems. And these issues change. They change seasonally. When we have significant numbers of guests, we have different problems than we have at other times of the year. And I tried to look at three that I have had friends and neighbors tell me have been important to them. Certainly one is our leisure trails. Some people call them bike trails, some people call them walking trails. I can show you my knee, where on Monday, a biker ran into me and knocked me off the bike, and I'm very grateful. Neither my wrist, my elbow, nor my hip was broken. I only have a bandage on my knee. But we need to develop a plan, not just a year-round plan, but particularly one that we'll deal with when we have a large influx of guests in the summer with our leisure trails. Secondly, I think that we need to develop some effective method of communication between property owners and the rental companies to ensure that our guests are aware of the code of conduct that is expected in our community to allow us to maintain this quality of life and standard of life that we want. We do not look like a five-star resort when people hang beach towels over railings, when people throw 6 and 7 bikes in a yard and don't have them taken care of. It is small things that can give the appearance that we are not the community that we want to be. And I would love to see some method of communication between property owners who rent their property as well as residents to be made aware of the code of conduct expected. And third, I agree with what everyone is saying here. We need to encourage and mandate continuing courteous discourse. Discourteous discourse does not get us anywhere. We need to know each other as individuals, as people, and be open to getting to diverse ideas and thoughts, and to communicate these with one another in the best interest of our community. I thank you for your interest today, for your caring about your community, and for coming.
Charlie, a delayed response to your question. What took me to Colorado? Well, there's a bank out there with $30 billion in assets, and I went out to be the, number 2 position there. Like that's important. But let me. I'm going to agree with my associates here and sort of echo what they say about the infrastructure and the challenges in deciding what we need to do and when, and then how we're going to pay for it. And I'm going to use a little anecdotal things. Like we're from Chicago. We lived there most of our lives, have relatives. We go back every year and over the holidays and visit with friends and family. And when we do, and since we've bought a home here and come down here, they start asking questions about Hilton Head. And you can tell, well, how is it down there now? And you talk to them some more, and they say, well, isn't it kind of aging down there? Isn't it so crowded you can't even get on the island? And I get all that. We have relatives in Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey, and Virginia. And the same thing, when we're gone, we have them come and visit. But this is anecdotal, and maybe our relatives and friends are strange. Who knows? But the point is, as I travel around, and then in Denver, which is a city of 3 million people, nobody's really heard of Hilton Head. But I think there's a reputational thing here that I think that gets into the strategic plan, the infrastructure, and everything else, because we tell them, the location of this and the natural beauty makes this probably the best place to live in the United States, but we do have some work to do, and I guess I would put infrastructure and how we're going to pay for that, and the reserves we have in case there's a storm or other things to the resiliency and capacity to replace that is probably the biggest challenge. So, secondly, I don't know how many of you get Investor Business Daily. I get it on a daily basis. We manage some money, and they had a big article earlier this week. If you want to see it, I can make it available, on community associations and the problems that they're having around the country. Interesting article, and as you'd expect, a couple professors from universities did some studies on it and everything, but it's getting up that almost 24% of the homes in the United States now are in some kind of community association. These are just professors now, but they said one of the biggest challenges is you have amateur board members, so I thought that was interesting. But also they said communication is always a challenge in every homeowners association, and I put that as one of them here. And what I found in making that work is it's not the volume or the frequency of communication, it's the content and interpretation. It's like the front page reports events, on the editorial page it's why things happen. I think that's the only way you can get communications to work, really. So I think there's 3 in there somewhere: infrastructure, strategic plan that comes with that, and reputation, and then communication. So thanks.
I'd like to remind everybody that I am running for ASSPPO. CSA is a very important tool we have here that they own, operate, and maintain. First, my pressing issues are due to my protective instinct for worthy land use plans and my desire for openness. I will always give to the Sea Pines Master Plan and its supporting covenants an open forum. I noticed as I walked up here, the master plan is preliminary. It always involves, we will always be building, we will always be changing. That's a fact. But protection of that plan is utmost importance. I will do my best to openly identify the authoritative responsibilities of all entities that are charged with upholding and adopting our plan and associated covenants. We must all know who is responsible. Where does the buck stop? My desire is to create and put into place a simplified and open planning and permitting decision-making process. It is very necessary to properly implement our plan. And we implement it only for one reason, that's the benefit of the property owners. But today, unfortunately, if you look at our system, it mimics a puzzle. You can't help but think that. If anybody can explain it to me exactly, I would certainly appreciate listening. So we do have a puzzle here. My concern is for total openness, and my understanding of the land planning and implementation is a public process. Everything should always be done in the open. Is one that must be accomplished by responsible parties in open view. Why? Because we live under a wonderfully made master plan that Charles made here, and the covenants, it's achieved by complicated land use controls. And yes, they are restrictive, but what does that give us? That upholds our land value, right? It also gives us the enjoyment of the place. And so with that, I'd like to say that it must be dealt with and accomplished clearly and open and timely. All decisions must be timely made. They should be in public view. Development of the natural structure of Hilton Head South End, Charles Frazier's unique development, is our home. The system can be there only if we protect it, and we're openly aware of one main thing, and that is how quickly and easily it can be lost. Because it certainly can, folks, if we don't pay attention to it. And we need to look at the planning process, and everything stems from that. I'm talking about the interface with the town. The town, I don't know if you know this, but the town totally ignores your covenants. Totally, all over this island. All they do is they look at that map, a two-dimensional map, and they say that's it. And I can prove that. And I intend to show that in open. Thank you.
Let me start by telling everybody that sitting on my desk right now are over 500 suggestions for the Strategic Planning Task Force. And these suggestions have identified approximately 125 problems within CSA and the plantation. Do you know how happy I am to only have to identify 3 at this stage? The first issue isn't new. It deals with establishing a trustworthy governance model for Sea Pines plantation. The covenants, created over 50 years ago. In that time, they have been modified very slightly. But in that time, our community has changed rather drastically. Problems have been swept under the rug in hopes that they'll go away. And guess what happens? With all the problems under the rug, you end up having a very uneven floor. Covenants need to be looked at. Covenants need to be addressed and enforced properly. The covenants restrain CSA from any assessment changes necessary to upgrade the aging infrastructure that we talk about. And yet the covenants allow the resort and the commercial interest to maintain continuity with no term limits on the boards, and yet the residents must turn over every 3 years, 33%, every 1 year, 33% of that representation. In the words of a fired athletic director who kept his football coach 1 year too long, that which should be done eventually should be done immediately. Let's not wait any longer to do what will eventually be done by others who will follow us. The time is now to redefine the rights of governance. The second issue deals with our ability to sustain a strong financial structure within a dynamically changing economic world. While the resort has made significant investments to upgrade their facilities, the rest of the entities must do the same. Limited by restraints to raise the gate fee, as well as covenant restrictions tying assessments to the CPI, CSA must find additional sources of income to rebuild that tired and aging infrastructure, to rebuild that plantation's infrastructure if destroyed by natural disaster. The resort and CSA, on a much smaller scale, must find the ability to find wages and benefits that attract quality people who could find a job 15 minutes early. And thirdly, we face the challenge of maintaining and enhancing the quality of life. What does that mean? The quality of life is a set of moving parts. It deals with communications, it deals with trust, it deals with representation of our body. It deals with whether our new neighbor is going to be a landlord or whether it's going to be a neighbor. It deals with bike paths. It deals with traffic. The quality of life means different things to different people. And the third problem is helping to define that so that we can all get back to what we used to talk about, the quality of life, which is now defined as the Sea Pines lifestyle. Thank you.
Well, I think we are all pretty impressed with what we've heard here today, and I think we owe all the candidates a big round of applause. It's a little longer than we would like to have kept you. We were thinking, well, maybe an hour, but when you have 9 candidates, there is some time needed to hear what all of them have to say, and it's indeed quite interesting to hear the different viewpoints. Now, what's next? The election process, both ballots will be mailed November 1st, or both ballots will be mailed November 1st. You can vote for up to a maximum of 3 candidates. The ballots have to be returned by December 1. Elliot Davis, CPA, supervises the elections. And then, once again, here is the nominating committee. I think that concludes all the business that we have on the slides. And I would like to thank the candidates on behalf of the nominating committee. I'd like to thank Jeannie Pierce for all the work that she's done. Without Jeannie, nothing gets done around here. And I would like to thank all of you for coming out this morning. I would like to ask you to tell those whom you know in the community that the presentations are going to be available on the website, and urge them to go on the website and listen to what these candidates have to say. Thank you very much for coming.